The snow was falling in slow, careless spirals the night Ethan Hale chose to disappear from his own life. And if you believe in signs, that was the first one. A billionaire whose name sat comfortably on skyscrapers and charity plaques, he walked through the city wearing a thin coat that smelled faintly of old wool and bus stops. His shoes scuffed on purpose, his watch left behind in a velvet drawer. He had come to this blind date not to be admired, but to be invisible, to see whether kindness could find him without the armor of money. What he did not expect was rejection to arrive so quickly, sharp and public, on Christmas Eve of all nights. Nor did he expect that the smallest hands in the room would be the ones to stop his quiet exit and change everything. Before the story unfolds, take a second with me right now. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the idea that who we are matters more than what we own, please like this video, share it with someone who needs a little hope tonight, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from, because stories like this travel farther when hearts connect across places. Ethan had agreed to the blind date after months of restless nights and empty penthouses. His therapist had suggested something radical, something that frightened him more than market crashes or hostile takeovers. Go where your name means nothing, she had said, and see who you are without it. So he signed up for a small community Christmas mixer organized by a neighborhood church, one of those places where folding chairs squeak and paper snowflakes hang crookedly from the ceiling. On the sign-in sheet, and said he worked in logistics, which was true if you squinted hard enough at a man who moved billions around the world. He sat alone at a round table near the back, nursing a cup of lukewarm cocoa, watching people laugh in pairs and groups, as if laughter were a language he once knew and had since forgotten. Across the room, Clara Monroe stood with her coat still on, fingers tight around the strap of her purse, scanning faces with the practiced caution of someone who had learned to expect disappointment. She was a single mother with tired eyes that had learned to smile on cue, a woman who carried the quiet weight of responsibility, the way some people carry umbrellas, always prepared for rain. She had come because her sister insisted, because Christmas was loud with reminders of what she did not have, because hope, even fragile hope, sometimes needed a door to knock on. When she saw Ethan, she hesitated, measuring the lines of his coat and the worn leather of his shoes, and something in her posture closed. She had been promised stability before, sold dreams wrapped in charming words, and she had learned to read the signs she thought mattered. The rejection did not come with cruelty, but it came quickly and with distance. It lived in polite smiles that did not reach the eyes, in a few minutes of small talk that drifted nowhere, in the subtle turn of a body away from his chair, as Clara's attention moved to someone else whose watch glinted beneath the lights. Ethan felt it land in his chest like a quiet verdict. He did not argue with it. He had asked for honesty without the glow of wealth, and honesty had arrived with cold hands. He stood, tucked his chair in carefully, as if manners could soften the blow, and made his way toward the door, the noise of the room dimming behind him like a radio turned down too low. It was then that Lily noticed him. Lily was 7, all elbows and curiosity, wearing a red sweater with a reindeer stitched slightly crooked by hands that loved her. She had been sitting on the floor near the tree, arranging donated toys into a universe only she understood, when she saw the man by the door pause, as if deciding whether to stay or go. Children noticed the moments adults rush past. Lily felt the tug of something she could not name, a sense that the room had become smaller and sadder around that single figure. She stood and walked toward him with the confidence of someone who had not yet learned fear, her braids bouncing, her sneakers squeaking on the linoleum. Ethan felt a tap on his coat and looked down into eyes that were bright and unafraid. Lily did not ask him who he was or what he did. She simply took his hand, her palm warm, and led him back toward the tree as if this had always been the plan. The room shifted in a way that could not be measured. People noticed. Clara noticed too, turning just in time to see her daughter guiding a stranger through the crowd with an authority that made adults laugh and step aside. Lily sat Ethan on the floor beside her and placed a small toy truck in his hand. The paint chipped, the wheels a little crooked, and then she leaned against his shoulder as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Ethan had not sat on the floor in years. The polished surfaces of his life did not allow for it. He felt the cold seep through his trousers, the sound of laughter close enough to touch, the steady presence of a child who had decided he belonged. Something loosened inside him, a knot he had not known was there. He helped Lily push the truck through imaginary streets, and when it tipped over, he righted it with a seriousness that made her giggle. He forgot to leave. He forgot to be embarrassed. He forgot the invisible balance sheets he carried everywhere. Clara watched from a distance, confusion softening into something like shame. She saw how Lily leaned into him, how his attention was complete and gentle, how he listened with his whole body to a child's story about a reindeer who got lost and found his way home. Clara had learned to judge quickly to survive, but survival sometimes sharpens the wrong edges. She felt the old fear stir, the one that said kindness was rare and should be guarded, and she wondered whether she had mistaken caution for wisdom. As the night went on, volunteers handed out plates of food and small gifts. Ethan helped stack chairs and wipe tables, his hands moving without hesitation, his laughter quiet but real. When the organizer thanked him for staying, he shrugged in a way that surprised even him. It felt good to be useful without applause. It felt like rest. Lily fell asleep on Clara's shoulder, the red sweater rising and falling, and when Clara apologized for the trouble, Ethan shook his head, careful not to wake the child as he adjusted her blanket. Outside, the snow had thickened, the city hushed under its white cover. Clara and Ethan walked to the curb together, Lily between them, and the air felt different, less sharp. They spoke then, not with promises but with truths that did not need polish. Clara shared the weight of raising a child alone, the math of rent and groceries, the quiet victories that no one clapped for. Ethan shared his loneliness, the way wealth had insulated him from the messiness of human connection, the ache of being seen only as a solution to other people's problems. He did not reveal his fortune. For the first time in a long while, he was not hiding behind it. He was simply not using it. Days passed, and then weeks, and they met again in ordinary places where miracles are easy to miss. They walked through the park, fed ducks, shared coffee that tasted better because it was shared. Ethan learned Lily's favorite stories and the precise way she liked her sandwiches cut. Clara learned that stability could look like presence, that reliability could sound like a knock at the door at the right time. Suspense did not announce itself. It grew quietly, in the space between what Ethan was and what he had been pretending to be, in the question of how long truth could wait without becoming a lie. The truth arrived not with fireworks, but with necessity. Clara's car broke down one bitter morning, the kind that makes every problem feel heavier. Ethan arranged help quickly, too quickly, and the seams of his other life began to show. Clara noticed the efficiency, the connections, the way doors opened. When she asked, he did not deflect. He told her who he was in plain words, without apology or defense. And then he waited, his hands empty, his heart louder than any boardroom. Clara felt the world tilt, the old fears rushing back with new voices. She thought of the first night, of the coat and the scuffed shoes, of Lily's small hand making a decision on her behalf. She realized that the man she trusted was the one who had sat on the floor and played with a broken truck, not the name attached to headlines. She realized that rejection had been a test neither of them knew they were taking, and that Lily had passed it for them. On Christmas morning, a year after the night that changed everything, snow fell again. Not the dramatic kind, just enough to soften edges. They stood together in a home that felt lived in, Lily tearing wrapping paper with abandon, laughter bouncing off walls that had learned a new language. Ethan watched them and understood that pretending to be poor had not been about deception. It had been about stripping away noise until the signal came through. He had learned that kindness is not impressed by power, that love often arrives through small hands and brave hearts, that being chosen for who you are is the only wealth that compounds without risk. If this story has touched your heart even a little, please pause and engage with it. Like the video, share it with someone who believes in quiet miracles. Stories live longer when we carry them together. And before we go, leave a comment about a moment when kindness surprised you. because those moments deserve to be remembered. The snow continued to fall, and in its gentle persistence, Ethan saw the shape of a life he wanted to keep choosing every day. A life where rejection had made room for grace, and where a little